Hi everyone, today we are going to discuss the ratios. Now we start from the easiest one. Sales growth. Sales growth is the percentage increase or decrease in sales between two time periods. If overall cost and inflation are increasing, then you should see a corresponding increase in sales. If not, then we need to adjust pricing policy to keep up with cost. Now how to calculate the sales growth? Sales growth can be calculated by current period minus previous period sales divided by previous period sales. Now the second one is reliance on revenue source. It measures the composition of an organization's revenue sources, for example, sales, contribution, grants, and any other source of income. Reliance on revenue resource can be calculated by revenue resource divided by total revenue. Now the next one is net profit margin. How much money are you making per every dollar of sales? This ratio measures your ability to cover all operating costs, including indirect costs. Net profit margin indicates how much of each dollar of sales is left over after all expenses. The formula is you simply divide net profit by sales. Now the next one is gross profit margin. Gross profit percentage shows the profitability of the company's products or services themselves without other overhead expenses, which are also called as indirect cost. It can be calculated by dividing by revenue. On a trend basis, an increase in the gross margin reflects the company's ability to pass along raw material increases to the customer, or may be an indication that they are facing little competition or have a superior sales force. Decreasing gross margin indicates that the company is under severe competitive pressures and is having to lower its prices to generate sales, or that is not able to pass along increases in raw materials or labor wage increases. As such, the gross margin serves as an early warning signal of the company's health. Now, what is operating profit percentage? Operating profit margin ratio indicates how much of each dollar of sales is left over after all expenses. It can be calculated by dividing it with revenue, where the operating profit is gross profit minus operating expenses. Now, what is the working capital? Working capital is a measure of cash flow and should always be a positive number. It measures the amount of capital invested in resources that are subject to quick turnover. Lenders often use this number to evaluate your ability to run day-to-day operating activities. Many lenders will require that a certain level of working capital be maintained. Now, how to calculate working capital? It is simply calculated by deducting all the current liabilities from your current assets. Now, the next heading is adequacy of resources. It determines the number of months you could operate without further funds received. Here, funds mean loan, grant, financing from banks, lenders, creditors, and so on. Adequacy of resources can be calculated by adding up cash with marketable securities and then account receivable divided by monthly expenses. Now the next one is operating self-sufficiency. It measures the degree to which the organization's expenses are covered by its core business and is able to function independent of grant or loan support. For the purpose of this calculation, business revenue should exclude any non-operating revenues or contributions. Total expenses should include all expenses, for example, operating and non-operating expenses. If you conclude a ratio of 1, it means you do not depend on any sort of loan from the creditors or lenders or any other sort of funding. Operating self-sufficiency can be calculated by dividing business revenue from total expenses. Now the next one is SG&A to sales, where S stands for selling, G stands for general, and A stands for admin. Percentage of indirect cost to sale. It is used to look for whether you are controlling overhead or not. The formula for calculating indirect cost to sales, or you may also say that SG&A to sales, is dividing all the selling, general, and admin expenses by sales. Now we come to the very important formula, which is very easy but nevertheless very important. Current ratio. It is also known as working capital ratio. It measures your ability to meet short-term obligations with short-term assets. a useful indicator of cash flow in the near future. This ratio indicates the ability of the enterprise to pay its current obligations out of our current assets. Short-term creditors are particularly interested in this ratio. Substantial emphasis is placed on the current ratio as an entity may collapse only because of its inability to meet its current obligations even if it is earning good profits. It is quite possible that current ratio is high, but company is unable to meet its current obligations. The ratio should be evaluated in conjunction with inventory turnover and receivable turnover ratios. If a large portion of inventory is blocked in slow-moving and obsolete stocks and debtors include many slow-paying receivables, the entity may not pay its current liabilities as they become due. Now we come to calculating the current ratio. Current ratio can be calculated by dividing current assets by all the current liabilities. Now we come to know that what is the ratio suitable for the current ratio. A ratio less than 1 may indicate liquidity issues. A very high current ratio may mean there is excess cash that should possibly be invested elsewhere in the business or that there is too much inventory. A ratio between 1.2 and 2 is appropriate. The one problem with the current ratio is that it does not take into account the timing of cash flows. For example, you may have to pay most of your short-term obligations in the next week, though inventory on hand will not be sold for another 3 weeks or account receivable collections are slow. In this case, the formula which is most suitable is the quick ratio, or we call it asset turn ratio, or the liquid ratio. Now what is this ratio? This ratio indicates most liquid assets available to meet current liabilities. It indicates if an entity has enough short-term assets without selling inventory to cover its immediate liabilities. Current ratio includes inventories which may not be readily realizable in cash. Though asset turn ratio, which is also liquid ratio, reflects most liquid assets available to meet current liabilities. The formula for calculating quick ratio is adding cash plus account receivable plus marketable securities then divided by current liabilities. This is often referred to as the asset test because it only looks at the company's most liquid assets and excludes inventory that can be quickly converted to cash. A ratio of 1:1 means that a social enterprise can pay its bills without having to sell inventory. Now the next one is return on assets. Rate of return on investment by shareholders. It can be calculated by dividing net profit from average total assets. Now the next one is operating expense ratio. It compares expenses to revenue. A decreasing ratio is considered desirable since it generally indicates increased efficiency. Now we calculate it by dividing operating expenses from the total revenue. Now the next one, and which is very important, account receivable turnover. Receivable turnover is an indication of the quality of trade receivable. This ratio measures improvement or deterioration in collection efforts. Usually, this should not exceed 3 months. However, the evaluation is made in the context of entity's credit policy. It is the number of times trade receivables turnover during the year. The higher the turnover, the shorter the time between sales and collecting cash. This ratio is useful for credit sales only. Now, formula for calculating the account receivable turnover is dividing net sales from average accounts receivable, where net sales is less any allowance for returns or discounts, and accounts receivable is taken after deducting any provisions for credit sales. Now the next formula is days in accounts receivable. Days sales outstanding is a measure of actual number of days accounts receivable are outstanding. Generally, the greater number of days outstanding, the greater the probability of delinquencies in accounts receivable. The goal is to keep the number of days accounts receivable are outstanding as low as possible. It provides information about the firm's credit policy. It should be compared with the firm's stated policy. For example, if firm policy is 30 days and average collection period is 60 days, it means the company is not stringent in collection effort. Days in accounts receivable can be calculated by dividing average accounts receivable from sales, then multiplied by 365, which is the number of days. Now we come to inventory turnover. The ratio indicates in number of times per period at which the inventories are sold. The number of days sales in inventory indicates the average time taken to sell the inventories. A decrease in inventory turnover may mean existence of slow-moving and obsolete stock or planned build-up of inventories to cater to customer needs. The fall in inventory turnover may also be due to industry-wide decline in sales levels. The evaluation is made in the context of company policy of number of days sales inventory should be on hand. The number of times you turn inventory over into sales during the year or how many days it takes to sell the inventory is what the inventory turnover. A high ratio indicates inventory is selling quickly and that little unused inventory is being stored, or could also mean inventory shortage. If the ratio is low, it suggests overstocking, obsolete inventory, or selling issues. The formula for calculating inventory turnover is cost of sales divided by average inventory or 365 and divided by days in inventory. Days in inventory is average inventory divided by cost of sales into 365. It measures how many days inventory are in the production or distribution system. Inventory flows through the company's system at a faster or slower rate. How fast is moved is an indication of how quickly the company can turn inventory into cash. Both the days inventory and the inventory turnover measure how efficiently a company utilizes its inventory. Days in inventory is equal to average inventory divided by cost of sales into 365. Accounts payable turnover. Now we come to accounts payable turnover, the number of times trade payables turnover during the year. The higher the turnover, the shorter the period between purchases and payment. A high turnover may indicate unfavorable supplier repayment terms. A low turnover may be a sign of cash flow problems. The formula for calculating accounts payable turnover is dividing cost of sales by average accounts payable. Now what is days payables outstanding? This figure expresses the average time in days that it takes a company to pay its vendors. Generally, the higher the number, the more cash a company is keeping on hand. However, the company has to strike a balance between preserving cash and keeping vendors happy. The formula for calculating days payables outstanding is ending accounts payable divided by cost of goods sold, which is further divided by 360. Now the next one is total asset turnover, which is again an important formula. It determines how efficiently your business generates sales on each dollar of assets. An increasing ratio indicates you are using your assets more productively. The formula for calculating asset turnover is dividing revenue by average total assets. Now the next one is return on assets. This is the basic ratio to measure profitability. In this ratio, profitability is related to assets employed. It expresses the percentage of every dollar invested in the business that was returned to the owner as profit. A high percentage is good. A return on asset that is too high may reflect profit being stripped from the company and not being reinvested for future profits. If a company does not continue investing in new assets, its long-range profitability will suffer. Now the formula is dividing net profit by total assets. You come to know return on assets. Another important formula is debt to equity ratio. This ratio expresses the relationship between capital contributed by creditors and debt contributed by owners. It expresses how much debt the company has for every dollar of shareholder equity. The higher the ratio, the greater the risk being assumed by creditors. However, a lower ratio generally indicates greater long-term financial safety. A firm with a low debt to equity ratio usually has greater flexibility to borrow in the future. Debt to equity ratio can be calculated by dividing total liabilities from the shareholders' equity. Now the next one is interest coverage ratio. This ratio measures the company's interest exposure, how much of its operating profit is needed just to cover the annual interest expense. If you get a ratio of 1, which means that all the company's profits are required just to pay the interest expense. A high ratio generally means that a company can afford to take on more debt. Interest coverage is also called times interest earned. The formula for calculating interest coverage ratio is dividing operating profit by annual interest charges, where the operating profit is EBIT, which means earning before interest and tax. Now the next one, which is very easy, cash conversion cycle. Cash conversion cycle measures the days it takes to acquire and sell inventory and convert sales to cash. Cash conversion cycle is also called as cash cycle or trading cycle. The cash conversion cycle is the number of days negotiated financing is needed to support the operating cycle of a business. A business operating cycle is simply the number of days its goods are tied up in inventory plus the number of days its sales are tied up in receivables. Calculating the cash conversion cycle tells you a lot more about the ability to pay than the quick or current ratio. It means this ratio is smarter than quick or current ratio. Cash conversion cycle, however, can be calculated by adding days sales outstanding with days inventory, then less it with days accounts payables. Now the next one is cash ratio. What is cash ratio? Cash ratio can be obtained by adding cash plus marketable securities then divided by current liabilities. Now the next one is cash flow from operations ratio. It can be calculated by the cash flow from operations divided by current liabilities. Now today we have discussed many important ratios. In the next lecture, we will discuss the practical implication of these ratios. I hope you understand the topic. Now wait for the next video. Till then, see you.